We are live and in color. Yes, the champ is here. The champ is here. Intimate Discoveries, Unveiling Connections, the podcast. Redefining the dialogue on intimacy and connections in modern relationships. In a world flooded with fleeting interactions and surface level engagements, Intimate Discoveries aim to bridge the gap, fostering deeper connections and understanding. Each episode delves into the heart of intimacies, dismantling myths and unveiling truths about the complex dynamics of relationships. Through engagement discussions with real relationship experts, heartfelt stories, and groundbreaking insights, we challenge and expand your perception of closeness and commitment. Whether you're navigating the rocky paths of a struggling relationship, contemplating the complexities of divorce, or seeking to strengthen the bonds of marriage, Intimate Discoveries offers a compassionate, insightful, and transformative journey into the essence of human. That's right. We're here, baby. Because I'm a champion. Yes. Champ is here. Well, I'm telling you, we are getting ready to bring it. Champion. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. Yes. Oh my gosh. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we are live and in color, and I am excited to bring you another show. Yes, ladies. Yes! Oh! You know it, baby! Bring it! Oh! Thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh. We are in for an amazing show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing on two amazing individuals. One is the dynamic guy that he's a part of the what is he? He's a part of my next level speaking academy, right? And he and I we met um through our connections, right? And we had this conversation that went on 1 hour short of Cat Williams live, right? We were talking 2 hours and we were talking about relationship, we were talking about intimacy, we were talking about how our conversation will impact lives for generations and generations, and it's helping men, helping couples, helping individuals to really expand their capacity of vulnerability, right? He's gonna be on the show tonight, right? He's gonna bring himself on, right? Matter of fact, let me see if I can bring him in right now. Who is? Let me see if he's there. Come on, bring on. But then I also met this amazing woman. She's gonna be on there, right? And she's actually gonna co-host the show now, Intimate Discoveries, featuring the wonderful Kelly. And I'm gonna bring her on. She's gonna introduce herself, tell you a little bit about herself, and without further ado, I'm gonna bring Kelly in. And then once my other guy comes on board, we'll bring him on too. Come on, Kelly, bring in that. Come on, talk to me.
Hey, how are you? Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Yes. Oh my God.
I'm excited.
Bring everybody up to speed. Tell us about yourself. Tell us, yeah, bring us up to speed. Who are you? Why?
Who am I? Who am I? Well, as you can see, well, you can't see, you can hear. Um, my, if you want to give my full government, it's Kelly Shepherd Watts. But on social media, I'm known as Legacy Watts. So you could call me Kelly, you could call me Legacy, either or, it doesn't matter. The
We
reason
going with
why
legacy. We going with legacy.
Legacy, huh?
We going with legacy.
We're going with legacy, yes, because that is my goal and mission in life, to help people and to provide information, resources, and an experience when we are together that it leaves a mark, a legacy for a lifetime. I want something, one thing that I can leave with someone that they'll always remember. And I have had testimonies in, working in the social work industry for 32 years, volunteering in the nonprofit industry for 40 years. Ooh, I'm telling a little bit of something about myself. And so to speak it to my age, listen, I don't care. I'm 56 years old. I live in the Queen City, and I'm originally from New York. And I am just totally excited. Can you hear me?
I
No?
can hear you.
Okay,
You coming in loud and clear.
okay, good, because my screen had closed on my phone. I am a life and business coach. I am a nonprofit executive director. I've served on numerous nonprofit boards. I have a heart to serve. I truly believe that is my calling. That's what God has challenged me to do. That is part of my plan. And I am a creative. I've studied art and all the way from high school through to college, and I just love everything artistic, music, um, art, dance, poetry, and I've done all of the above and growing
Right.
up, and but just I've had an opportunity to be creative in the way that I help people, and that part is what I love and desire to do. And so when you and I met, was listen. I was in one conversation to my right and had my left ear was in your conversation to the left, and I
Mhm.
was like, wait a minute, I need to sort of turn this way. He's talking my language, okay. And then
Yeah.
it was history within a
It,
matter of what, 15 minutes.
no matter 15 minutes, you and I got together, it was like, you know what? We got something special.
Yes.
And to be able to now close the loop on the perspective of the male perspective and the female perspective. And like I said, I have my other young lady, who's going to be on the show. She'll be in, Loria. She'll be in from time to time. But for right now, it's us, bringing the truth, bringing the perspective on vulnerability, bringing the conversation about what it means to be intimate and how it's important today that you have a safe space in your relationship. And because
Hmm.
when you do not have a safe space in your relationship, it opens up so many other um, things, other disadvantages to that can happen in your relationship. Where if you're not providing a safe space for that person, um, somebody else is.
Ooh. Oh. Mm-mm. You said it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else is right. And the reason that it's real simply because that is a need. Everyone needs a safe space, right? And
Mhm.
someone, when you have a need, you work to fulfill that need, right?
Yeah.
And when someone is able to provide a safe space for an individual, they begin to experience a sense of loving and belonging. Right? Right?
Hmm.
So, let me see here. Says it, please let me know when I'm good. Oh, come on in. Hold on. Hold on. I got a guy who's he's listening in right now. He's gonna be on the show next week. And so he was going to check his sound and stuff like that. So he may come in on board, but that's it, right? And the problem that we have in the black community is that we don't have a safe space within our community when it comes to each other,
Hmm.
and so it's hard, because we want to experience black love, we want to experience love, period. But the thing is that we are not given a safe space from when we come out the womb, right? Um, we when we come out the womb, we're under attack, and it's challenging. You don't know whether or not um, you don't know what's going to happen in the black community. You don't know. You don't know what's if you're going to be safe to be able to share your thoughts and feelings. We know that at any age, a young boy could be called upon to suck it up. No, we don't care about your feelings. Who sets a young boy down and says, tell me how you feel right now?
Mm.
When does that happen? Come on,
Mhm.
Kelly, talk.
It doesn't. I've been working in social work and working with youth and adolescents for many, many years. Oftentimes, I would observe the difference in the way that boys and girls are taught, in particularly for quite a few years. If anyone listening is from New York City, we have a program in New York City called Summer Youth, and many kids have, worked during Summer Youth and volunteered, not volunteered, but it's a lottery. That's what I was thinking of. It's a lottery system to get into Summer Youth, and in the educational component, which I didn't even know about until I worked in summer youth, that they had a 7-week educational component that uh, teaching certain things to young women is different than young men, and understanding that that they need their own space. So when we did health, there were
Mhm.
times that we had conversations with the boys, and then we had conversations with the girls, so that the boys can have a safe space and the girls can have a safe space. But then we had joint conversations so that one another understood what was going on with the other. Why, what goes on with young girls at this age and what goes on with young boys. And it's the same thing in our mental emotional development. And if we are not taught those things young, then now, in hindsight, as an adult, we don't know how to, as women, and I'm raising my hand, speaking myself, we don't know how to understand. Now, of course, I'm a little different because I work in social work, so I get it. I've understood that sometimes, a man, when he goes out into the world, it's crazy. And so when he comes back and he's telling you certain things or he's not telling you certain things, I have this firm belief, because I've had to learn how to have conversations, read between the lines, watch the body language, understand what I don't see, and understand what I do see. And so in saying that, you know, to see young men, and it's so cool because of social media, the young boys that I worked with at 15, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old are now grown men, and to see them on social media. I was just actually looking right before the podcast came on at one's son who just turned a year old. And I'm like, man, to see see that, this little kid that worked with me during the summers, that was probably running around and hanging with his boys and this and that. Now he's a dad, and he has to navigate this. And he's a dad of a boy, to navigate that relationship, to understand how to teach him how to engage with his peers and how to engage in relationships with women,
Mhm.
and there are certain aspects that are just assumed and never taught, and that should
Right.
be. But I think that there are a lot of men now that are realizing that we can't go that path as parents anymore, and whether that's a mother or a dad. But I think that's when it's important to have fathers in a son's life, so that if he's conscious and
Mhm.
understands this, that he is teaching his son that he needs to have a safe space. He needs to be able to have open conversations. I was just looking at a video too. Oh, I did research without knowing I did research. I was looking at a friend's wedding reception, and
Mm-hmm.
his someone was giving a speech, and he said, which the groom is someone that I know. He was a childhood friend of my brother's. He called on his friend. His friend was going through a breakup, and
Mm-hmm.
he was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." And he was like, "Really?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Dude. Da, da, da." And they just had a conversation. He said, "Let me call you right back." And so he got off the phone. He was like, "Oh, okay, And then, he called him back. He called him back and was like, "Listen, I'm coming over." And he's like,
Oh,
"I'm coming over." He was like, "Yeah, I'm coming over." He's like, "Because you need me, or you need that time,
right.
with a friend." And so they were able to have that. He gave him a place and a space that was safe, that was his friend. This is his brother, you know, and to be able to share with him what he was really, really going through. And I don't think that that happens that often. And then and now we turn back around. That same man who's going through the breakup, who's holding his emotions and feelings tucked behind the armor, right?
Right.
That's been a conversation with some friends, putting on the whole armor of God, right? So you got your armor, right? And you're going out into the world and you keep tucking all those little sensitive spots, those moments, those tears, those that sadness, that anger, that frustration behind the armor. And then something happens in the world, or you meet someone new, and now they've got to chip away at that armor to get to this
Mm-hmm.
sensitive space of your heart, because maybe this now new woman
Oh,
has the ability to give you that safe space, but you don't know how to step into the safe space. And so then it becomes a place of contention and this combat. And because you got that armor on and you don't know how to take it off and leave it at the door, so that she can give you that soft space, so that she can say, "Baby, put your head on my lap. Let me just rub your head. Let me play in your beard. Let me let you decompress from the world today." And that's not given, you know.
well, the challenge that young man will have is that if he's been carrying that armor for the last
Lifetime.
for his lifetime, right?
Mhm.
And he's not. This is what happened for me. I know this is what happened for me. Is that no one told me I could take it off.
Right.
No
Right.
one gave me the space, man. Hey, you can relax, man. Take off that armor, man. No, it's like, listen, you better, more times than not, I am in a space where people are reinforcing my armor.
Yeah. Oh, you said it. Mm-hmm. That's
They're reinforcing my armor, saying, hey, you need to make sure that you don't let anybody see this part of you. Make sure no one sees that you gone through X, Y, and Z. You better not talk to your girlfriend or your female friend or your wife
mm-hmm.
about this. Keep this hidden. And we're rewarded
Mm,
in our men's group when we hold true to silence,
mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, but we're hurting,
Yeah.
and we and the thing is that we don't know that we could talk. We don't know that we have that we're entitled to that space, right? And I'm trying to see if I can get my guy to come on, right?
And I want to go. You just said a word. You are entitled to that space. I just
Mhm.
saw an Instagram post where Yandy Smith and Debrat were talking to Mendici about, I think she wanted to give her eggs to a sister, and the brat had to ask her to pause for a second, because she was like, "Do you hear what your husband is saying? Like, this impacts your husband." And she stopped and she said, like, "I don't want to." have something that's going to upset him and hurt him. But
Mhm.
sometimes we have to stop and understand that we can't just plow past because he wears his armor all the time. Because one, he has never been taught that he can take his armor off and leave it at the door. And two, because he's a strong man, strong people, that, oh, he's good. He's all right. Because he doesn't say anything, or even if he's saying anything, what he's saying is not what he really feels and means. He's just saying that it's okay. Let's keep going. No. But um, the champ, I
Yes.
got a question for you.
Go ahead.
When in a man's lifetime was this lesson taught? Just quick answer.
It's not.
No, 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 no. I mean, the lesson of the armor, having that armor on and not having a safe space and a safe place. When is it taught? It's taught.
Well, it's the when it is taught, we're taught at a young age
There you go.
to not be vulnerable.
In what
We're,
ways?
in the ways in which the mom will say, "Don't. What are you crying for? I'll give you something to
There
cry
you go.
for." Right.
There you go.
And that
What you
if
crying
you
for, boy? Stop
what you
crying.
stop crying, right? Why
Boys don't cry. Wipe
boy,
them tears.
wipe those
It's
tears.
only a little scrape.
Right, you'll
Mm-hmm.
be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be all
Yeah.
right. And you're like, Mom, but I know that I'm going to be all right because I'm not bleeding,
Mm-hmm.
right? I know you put the band-aid over it, right? But I was really trying to get somewhere and I feel disappointed right now that and discouraged that I don't know when I'm gonna be able to achieve my goals. And I'm sad right now. But you're not given permission to do that or to
Mm-hmm.
feel that way. And so as a result, um you missed the mark, and your relationships end up suffering. So I'm gonna say this here real quick, right? I'm listening to this book called Boy Crisis, and one of the things he highlights in the book is that boys have to be taught how to look a person in their eyes,
Mm.
where looking a person in their eyes comes natural for young girls,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whereas boys have to be taught that. And if they don't have that male figure in their lives to pull that out of them, then they won't get it. And I'm trying to see. I got Damon on here. I'm trying to see why can't you come over. So what do you? But so how does that play into modern relationships now and a
Oh, it
challenge
does.
that you see?
Oh, it does, because that is a um, tried and true, long-standing behavior pattern that has been taught for a lifetime, where young men, young boys, as babies, like I remember being in Queensbridge in the local fish spot. I used to work in Queensbridge in the
Mhm.
community center, and this young mom was with her son, and he was about 2.5, 3, and she was like, "Cut it out, stop them tears, da da da," and she just kept going. I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Young lady," I said, "Do you not understand? He's a baby." I said, "He is a little boy, and yes, he can walk, he can get up out that stroller." I said, he's still a baby. And I, tapped his head, and I said, "It's okay." And so she just looked frustrated. I said, "Mom, it's okay." And so she was like, "But he did." I said, "But you know what? And you might have to." She was like, "I'm always telling him." I said, "But he doesn't understand yet." I said, "So you might have to repeat certain things to him over and over." I said, "Because he's a baby, and babies, what are they going to do? Is they don't understand, they can't communicate. He's going to cry, he's going to scream." And I said, "But as a mom, is for you to help him get through that and understand what he's dealing with." One of the things I did with my daughter, and I still have this thought process as an adult, is you help people understand. Like I when she would go through things, I would talk her through it. If she scraped, I was like, well, you scraped your knee because you weren't listening to mommy, and you went ahead and you ran ahead of me and you tripped. So I would always explain to her like what happened, what's going on. And that's what we have to do, because then as they get older and the cognitive development mental levels start increasing and expanding, though, but those that that's that happens, but that foundational um uh pattern that was taught from a very young age of don't cry, hold
Right.
your emotions in, hold those feelings put them at bay, right there. And that continues, and then it gets reinforced as within your peer group as young kids. You're not gonna cry in front of your friends. Now we ain't doing that.
Absolutely.
You might have a fight. I'm about
So, so Kelly,
Mhm.
Kelly, I'm gonna hold you for a moment, right? Because my
Mhm.
man Damon is here, right? And I tell people that I know that I'm in the right space, simply because when I am trying to bring on individuals who are impactful, that will get ready to change lives, that
Mhm.
the universe does something, that I have technical difficulties or I have something going on where my system with the internet will go down or whatever. But I push through, right? And pushing through right now, I got Damon on the line, right? And he's gonna come on board, and you're gonna hear him talking, and we're gonna bring this conversation back to life that we had last week, about relationships and about intimacy and and marriages and friendships and stuff like that. Damon, can you hear me?
I can hear you, champ.
All right, perfect. Hold on. Did you hear him? You hear him, Kelly?
Yes, I can hear him.
Oh, perfect. So we're live. Go ahead, Damon. Talk to me, man. Talk to me. How you doing?
Hey man, what's going on, man? This definitely less than ideal. Uh, Hold on, but I don't care what I do. I can't access the link.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, man. But what's going on with you, champ? What's
Man,
going on?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, man. I'm glad to have you on board. I'm glad to continue our conversation. Like I was telling the audience earlier, that you and I, when we got on the phone, we were talking on your show about 2 hours,
Yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
about relationships, about our perspectives, and how you and I gone through unique situations but have different perspectives on
yeah.
how we can be more effective husbands. I think we were talking about being husbands, right?
Well, we talked about a lot.
Right.
We talked a lot. We definitely talked about being husbands, man. And I've been and I didn't ask you a question then, and I'll ask you in a minute, man. But I've been married for 25 years, and God continue to bless this year. Be 26 years that I've been married, and man, marriage is one of those things that probably the most impactful book I've ever read, or it's in my top 5 of impactful books I've read on marriage, is by Gary Thomas. And it says, "What if marriage was not made to make you happy, but was made to make you whole?"
Mm-hmm.
When I read that book, I began to understand not only marriage differently, but I began to understand the role of a husband differently.
How so?
My job as a husband, I have a few different jobs as a husband. And one of my jobs as a husband is to die. Saying, I always tell men when I'm working with them, I say, husbands have to be the first to die. Without a sacrifice of a husband dying, it makes it nearly impossible for your bride to really find who she is because she doesn't have a safe place to love on herself. So that's where I hit the job number 2. My job is not to make my wife happy.
Right.
My job is not to save my wife. My job is to create a safe environment so that my wife can heal and love on herself, so that she can become who she's supposed to be in the context of us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have to be the first to die.
Okay. So what's the? Why do you say die? Why I gotta be the person to die?
Marriage is a sacrificial relationship. And so when I say die, I don't mean in the literal sense. Although I would tell you, man, I had the unique opportunity to speak to 2 different widows, one of them being my mother. And both of them had the same testimony. And I suspect if I talked to some other widows who are very honest with themselves, they would tell you something similar. The first widow I spoke to was an older white woman that I work with, and she said, I did not fully appreciate my husband until he died. I did not recognize all that he did to make sure that I was good until he was gone. And it wasn't that I was a bad wife. I just had no idea of how much I didn't appreciate that he did. I appreciated a lot, but I only scratched the tip of the iceberg of the things I should have appreciated him for. There's some things that I just figured were automatic, but I realized after he was gone, those things were not automatic. Right? So she told me that, and she said if I had an opportunity to talk to any young bride, I'd say it's easy to find all of his faults, but don't trip over his sacrifices on the way to pointing out his faults. Is he perfect? Was my husband a perfect man? She said, absolutely not. She said, but he was so much more perfect than I thought. Now, when I had the conversation with my mom had a stroke out there about a year after my stepfather passed away, who is my father, and he's the most consequential man in my life. One day we were just visiting with her in the nursing home, and she just looked at me. My stepfather's name is Pat. She said, just out of the blue, Pat was a good man. I said, okay, Mom. I said, you just thinking about it? She said, no, I need you to hear me. He was a good man. And this is what shocked me that my mom said next. He said, as a wife, because this is her second marriage, he said, as a wife, I did things that other men would have slapped me in my mouth for, and I would have deserved, but he never did. He was a good man. So when I talk about sacrificing and dying, I'm saying I have to understand that the mission for my family, and you know I come from a faith bent, the mission that I have for my family, that God gives me for my family, requires me to lay down my life. So when I read that scripture, there's no scripture I can read that doesn't point back to marriage. Like I read it as like I see marriage in it. Because that's just on purpose to talk to and help marriages heal. So when I read that scripture that says, husbands, love your wife.
Like Christ loves the church.
Like Christ loves the church and gave his life for her. Right?
Right.
This is what I hear when I read that. It doesn't matter what she has done. There's no caveat in that scripture. You lay down your life.
So how does what about my life? If I'm who can, I guess I have to go before God and experience the value that God has in me, in order for me to give that to um give that to my wife or to a woman. And so here's the thing. What I'm saying is, right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Chicago, and so a Chicago hot dog, and sometimes consists of lettuce, tomatoes, onions, green peppers. I've had mayonnaise, mustard, and relish on a hot dog, and all these
Mm-hmm.
things on a hot dog, right? And I've tasted
Mm-hmm.
that kind of Chicago hot dog, right? I got it. I
Mm-hmm.
talked to someone here in South Carolina who has never tasted that hot dog, right? That Chicago hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
How can he then deliver a Chicago hot dog what he have not tasted? And so my point is that if I have not experienced somebody dying for me, how can I deliver that to my wife?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah,
that,
yeah, champs.
can
And
I jump in there?
Hold
yes,
on.
yes. Go.
Yeah, go ahead, Kelly. Go ahead.
You.
So I think how you doing there? This is Legacy Kelly. There was a couple of awesome and amazing points that you threw out there, and I think to answer you, Frank, I think that when you are in a relationship and a man is able to do that, he knows that he has that safe space and that safe place. And yes, like you said, someone may not know what that Chicago dog may taste like, look like. It was just the thought of mayonnaise on a hot dog. Ooh, makes me cringe, but it probably tastes good. But once we are able to have those conversations, which is important. And a lot of people don't have that in the beginning of their relationships. They just sort of kind of they get together. It's sort of kind of happenstance. It's not intentional in in the whether it's a true courting process or a dating process. There isn't a conversation. I didn't really understand that until I went through a courting process with someone, and we were very intentional about those conversations. So he knew that, oh, okay, she understands my need to be able to unload some heavy things. But it also, too, I also understood that I understood that dying to someone, he was willing to do what was necessary. And the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about my dad in his marriage to my stepmother, not my mom, because that shouldn't have never happened, but to my stepmother. He would die often in that relationship because the love he had for her was, it was almost like they were one and the same person, even though of course they're different. But I saw it when she got ill. He would have given his life if he had to for hers, to and change places so that she could have lived, because that's how much he loved her, and knew that this woman would hold his whole heart in her hand and keep it protected and covered and loved and cared for if she could. And so when a man knows that he has that, he will die time and time and time again. And it's not a true death, but it's a death. It's giving up of yourself. I will, when a mother has a child, she'll feed her child first before she feeds herself. She will give her child a blanket before she gives it to herself. And you said something very key about submission. My dad and I used to talk about submission. Submission is when a man and a woman come together as a couple and creates a family, and they both submit, because he has to submit to God and then she submits to him. They submit together to to follow the mission, because there should be a mission. Who you are today is not who you're going to be in 10 years. It's not who you're going to be in 5 years. It's not who you're going to be in 1 year. So that you can build and create your family. You're constantly building, you're constantly developing, and you're constantly developing that foundation that should be growing and changing and just becoming stronger, and and people should be able to see that. Your children should be able to see that, those closest to you, so that when you have that safe space, you then can do that. And I give
Yeah.
that back to you.
Yeah.
You finally got in, Damon. You're on the screen.
Yeah, I was going from my computer and I just had to come from my phone.
Okay.
Um, Champ knows I have a nice podcast set up and microphone, and it won't let me join any other way. So came to the phone, downloaded the app, figured it
Mhm.
out. So here's the thing when it comes to that question of like, how do I deliver the Chicago, explain the Chicago hot dog when I've never had it, right? And this is how I look at it. So Champ, we've talked.
Did we lose Damon?
Am I still here?
You there? We lost you
All
for
right.
a second.
Okay.
You here?
Um, all right, my screen went to sleep, so I think it shut it off. So, but Champ, so one of the questions I had for you, and you can answer it in a minute, is how long has it been since your divorce to now, right? The gap, the time gap. In the reason I look at that is as I went through what I went through in my marriage, where there's some infidelity there, and you have a choice, and you have to decide, man, are you going to stay in this thing or not? Even though you have every spiritual justification, all these reasons, but God says, I have something that I need you to do. And when He pointed me to my wife, He did not point me to my wife and say, this is going to be perfect. He says, do you
Mhm.
believe in me? So now when I'm delivering that, when I'm trying to be sacrificial, it's not actually because of her. Matter of fact, if you really, really, in my opinion, want to make sure that your family thrives and that your marriage moves from survival to thriving, you actually have to turn away from her and turn back to the mission. And if you stay on mission, one or two things is going to happen. She's going to follow you, or he's going to remove her. I'm not trying to do the Bible study here, but I want to just talk about the practical lesson of Lot and his wife. When the mission was get out of Sodom and Gomorrah, when she started looking back, she could no longer continue on the mission. But if she would have continued to follow her husband, she would have made it to safety just like him and the daughters
Ooh.
did.
Mm.
Right? So
Right.
now the only way I can lead my wife to safety is I almost have to ignore her for the God mission.
Mm.
And that is painful to me because I know it's painful for her to see me sacrifice.
Mhm.
And she's battling with feeling neglected, especially if she's had a father wound, right? So now she's feeling neglected because she wants a godly man, but she doesn't want a godly man. So what I learned, and this is what I learned in the midst of this, is God says, I was complaining. I was complaining about having to sacrifice. He said, you hadn't sacrificed yet then. I said, what do you mean? I've gone through all this. People should be buried.
Right.
I should be in prison ordering cigarettes. What do you
Mhm.
mean I haven't sacrificed? He said,
Right.
because, see, real sacrifice has no expectation.
Right.
When
Sacrifice
you
is done.
truly, when you truly sacrifice, you have no guarantee that the people you sacrifice for will honor it.
Mm.
Hmm.
That is the hallmark of real sacrifice. When
Right.
we talk about, talk about Jesus, when we talk about the men and women who you were in the military, if you would have went over there and you would have died in battle, there was no guarantee. Look at what happened on the 6th, and I'm not trying to go political, but I just want to use it as just a contextual thing. Look at what happened on the 6th. If Franklin dies in the Middle East somewhere on a boat, and you're dying for the Constitution, and you're looking down from Valhalla or wherever you're looking from, and you're looking down and saying, I didn't die for that. I didn't die for Americans to turn against America,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was no guarantee. You laid your life on the line every day with no guarantee that those people would honor the Constitution because you took the oath. So when I said, matter of fact, marriage vows, you don't actually even make. This is something we teach when we teach couples. The biggest mistake you can make about marriage vows is thinking that you're making them to each other.
Right. Right.
You're not making marriage vows to. I don't want, now that I know, I don't want my wife to make marriage vows to me because those don't mean anything because as
Right.
humans, we hurt each other,
Because
right?
men fail all the time. We
Exactly. So, what? So you have daughters, right?
I have two daughters, absolutely.
Two daughters, right? Old school. And I don't know how old school you are, but old school, you had to go and ask the father for the hand of the daughter, right? So
Right.
the vow that that young man will make when he takes your daughter to the altar is not between her and him, it's between you and him.
Right. And but that's biblical though, right?
That,
That's
that- it,
biblical
yeah.
because the thing is that if up until the so when a man takes on a woman, he has when he goes and asks the father for daughter's hand in marriage, he that part for to me is confirming that the exchange takes place at the altar
Mm-hmm.
simply because it says who gives this woman away, who gives this bride away, and if the father disagrees,
Mm-hmm. That's the end. End of the story.
it does not
Marriage over.
happen.
Yep.
Right. So I'm coming to you to because I know she already loved me. I already know she loved me because we were kissing in the back of the truck, right? I already know she
Mm-hmm.
right. I already know she loved me, right? I know I can get we can go any way we want to go. She'll do anything for. I already know that. The thing is that will the exchange happen? And I have to come to him because when she takes on when the exchange happens, she's taking on my name, and therefore I am now her response. She is now my responsibility, right? I am now responsible for
Mm-hmm.
her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that most fathers are committed to their responsibility for that daughter, for that woman, right? They take
Mm-hmm.
that responsibility serious. You're not going to treat my daughter any old kind of way. This is mine.
Right.
And so if I'm
Right.
going to if I'm going to give her to you, I want to make sure that you know how to, and I have this example that you know how to play the violin. Because I've done
Mm-hmm.
some, I fine-tuned that violin. That the thing is my daughter is like the most amazing violin in the whole wide world. And
Mm-hmm.
when I hand this violin, I want to make sure I'm not handing it to a gorilla, right?
Right. Right. And man, listen. And this is so I told my daughter this, or me and my wife were having this conversation. I said, um, my daughter could stay with me until she's 35 years old, until the day a man takes her out of my house. As long as she follows our rules, she's still a grown woman, but if you're living, there's still going to be some level of rules, although they're less restrictive than when you were a child. She can stay until then, right?
But
My sons, though, hey, y'all can stay until y'all get to a stable place as long as you're able to get under our rules and you have a plan to move forward, right? Now, I expect her to have a plan as well. So I'm not being chauvinist in it. What I am saying
Yes,
is,
you are. So yes, you are. Yes. No, so let me tell you this here real quick, right? Let me tell you this today. Let me tell you this here, right? So, and people know the truth is in the disclaimer. What do I mean
you
by
go,
that? No,
go
I'm
ahead.
saying the truth is in the disclaimer. So when you like, I'm not trying to have a Bible study on your podcast. No, you are having a Bible study on my podcast. You having a Bible study on my podcast. You want to have 14 biblical references in the last 8 minutes, right? And then you got somebody in the amen corner who's called Legacy who came on.
That's right.
In the amen corner, like, oh Lord. I'm like, oh my gosh, should we
Hallelujah.
take up an offering? But my point is that the truth is in the disclaimer. And the thing is that we punish young boys, right? We punish boys because
See, you
here
ain't
it
hear the
is.
rest of my thought though, man. Go
No,
ahead, go
go
ahead.
ahead,
You
come
didn't.
on.
You know, no. This is why I say that to my boys, right? If my boys, so I have one, he's a truck driver, he's 25 years old, looking for him a bride, good young man doing his thing, right? He got his head on straight. He's thinking about life right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's doing his thing. My youngest son, he's a junior in high school. He'll be a senior next year. God continue to bless. Wants to go on and be an engineer. If he's wants to stay in my house till he gets his master's and he's got a plan to move forward, that's a completely different thing, right?
Right.
There's a joke by Dave Chappelle that's going to encapsulate why I say what I say, right? Dave Chappelle tells his joke, and I'm not going to get into the vulgar parts of it. He said he was talking about women, and he said when he was first starting out his comedic career, there was a drug dealer that called him down to do a comedy set, and man, he did such a good job. Guy gave him like 12 grand, put it in a backpack, and he had to ride on the subway in DC or New York or whatever. And he said, I wonder what people would do to me if they knew it was in this backpack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he talked about the backpack. And he said, and then he pivoted and related to women. He said, there is no amount of money you could have paid me to get on this same subway with a backpack full of what's between women's legs. I want you to understand what he like the pungency. I'm doing the joke no justice because he made a pungent point. He said, people would want to take that from me more than they would want to take money from me. And that's the danger and the reality of the world that women live in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I saying my daughter can't protect herself? I hope that she can. And I need to do some more things to make sure that she can, right? As a
Mm-hmm.
father. But she's still, at the end of the day, if she reaches the wrong man, and he gets to jump on her, she's not going to be stronger than him. And whatever his will is, he can impose it on her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So when I say that, it's more from a protection standpoint
Mm-hmm.
than it is from any other standpoint.
Right.
Her
So,
ability to protect herself. And I
mm-hmm.
would be wrong, equally wrong, if I send my son out into the world where he can't protect himself. This is the thing about men, right? I'm a 6'1", 300-pound guy. There are not many people who are going to run up on me if I have the wrong look on my face, right? But I
Right.
don't care what look a woman has on her face. You're not going to scare a guy away that wants to intrude upon you.
Right. The thing is, Damon, is that most people don't know that you've never had a fight before.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So you really
yeah.
don't know how to fight.
Yeah, they don't know. So you just got to look as a man. You just got to look the part.
Oh my
Hey,
gosh!
son, stop! Don't be walking around just smiling all the time. Put a
Right.
scowl on your face. Don't always be smiling. Stop showing your teeth. You know what I'm saying? But for a woman, it's a different dynamic because if she shows her teeth too little, oh, you're a stuck up little bee, and now I want to teach you a lesson. But if you smile too much, oh, you must like me.
Right.
A dude scowls, he unapproachable. If he
Mhm.
smile too much, he must be soft, but I ain't sure. Because, like you said, I don't know if he never had a fight. Because some people just smile at you. That smile actually should give you warning if you're paying attention.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You cuss him out and he smile, you should probably walk the other direction. That's the reality, right? So I my thing is, man, is what I've learned, and I'm just going back to your original question. Why do I have to die? Is because without death of me, whether that's literally, and I'm going more figuratively and spiritually, without death of me, the path to restoration is not as clear for my family.
S-
Mm-hmm.
So how do I experience life?
Oh man. So here's how I experience life in the sacrificial position. Man, I'm glad that's such a great question. It- dang man, I'm still trying to, man, I can't escape the disclaimer. So let me just go on and go there
Okay,
because
come on.
it's who I am. It's who I am. So here's how I experience life, and this is what I learned. The level of freedom, even though there are times where it is stressful being a sacrificer, the level of freedom I found in that sacrificial identity pales in comparison to my selfish identity.
Mhm.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
It pales in comparison. I no longer care what people think of me as long as I know what God thinks of me. I don't even care. One of my friends, he always gets on me because you follow my social media, man. I'll be popping shots. That's what he called it. Boy, you out here popping shots. These doggone preachers they gonna send somebody after you. I
Mhm.
don't care because I live that way all the way around with my family. In my most trying time in my marriage, God said something transformative to me. He said, either you can talk to her or I can talk to her, but we both not gonna speak.
Oh, I know that's right.
I got a lot to say, God. Well, you go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and talk. I'm gonna sit over here and be quiet. I know what my power can do. I don't know about yours.
Mhm.
Mm. Because
Oh,
then
okay
that goes
then.
back to what you said, Damon, too. Because when you said 2 points, you said either you said the first point was the follow point, but then you said or God will remove her because if we do too
Yes.
much talking, she gonna be running. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so I'm like, and this is what we have gotten wrong about expressing love. Oh, and here's what I wish women could hear. Oh man, I want the ladies to hear this without coming for me. And if they come to me again, I'm a big boy, I'm good. But I wish ladies could hear this. Because I hear a lot of women, my husband want to control me. Now, champ, I'm gonna go to your military expertise. I don't even know what your MOS was, but I'm guaranteeing you learned just basic security. What exactly what exactly can you protect without controlling?
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's you can't if
I
it's not if there's no boundaries set, if there's no conditions set, right? Because we have
uh-huh.
on the ship, right? We get these different conditions, right? Where
Uh-huh.
individuals we have this security posture, right? And it calls general quarters, right? We call it general quarters, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go to general quarters, right? Everyone goes to your prospective location where you're most effective in the event of a strike.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on what's getting ready to happen, we have these different conditions that we could set the compartments to, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
making sure that because we have watertight doors and some doors that aren't watertight. So if in event that the ship get hit by a torpedo, we're not going down simply
Mm-hmm.
because we have these watertight doors already shut. So if you hit this side here, the ship isn't going to take on water. But to go to your point is that we can't if we don't go to these conditions and we don't set these controls, we can't protect the ship. We can't be
Mm-hmm.
viable in the we you can't count on us to be able to defend our freedom, right?
Man, listen, I had this conversation with somebody some years ago, right? And you just laid it out perfectly. I said, um, I said, say President Obama, this is some years, and Obama was out by then, but say President Obama walks in, President Trump, President Biden, it doesn't matter. But President walks into a room, right? When he walks in that room, who's the most powerful man in that room? And almost everybody says, the president. I said, no, because that president has no control. He's not the
Mhm.
most powerful person in that room. The Secret Service guys protecting him are the most powerful people in that room because the meeting that he is having, if they feel like he is in danger, they can end the meeting.
Right.
Against his protest, they can end the meeting. They are the most powerful men in the room. So therefore, listen, and this is what I want ladies to hear. Listen, when you talk about control, and I'm finna hurt some feelings right here in a minute. But when you talk about control, here's something that's so important, man. If he cannot control the environment, he cannot protect you.
Yes.
If you want safety, there's a certain level of control you have to relinquish.
But
But you're calling him controlling. Now, I want you to understand this. How much do you understand about where he was raised? And this is going to get to something you just said a minute ago, champ. If you, and especially for black men, black boys who were raised by single parents, the seat before my mother got married to her second husband, her way of protecting me was controlling me. You can't go outside. You can't hang around these people. I'm gonna beat the brakes off of you because I'm trying to keep you safe. So now his definition of what protection looks like has been shaped by an over dominant mother who was really just trying to keep him safe. And
right.
she didn't know any other way to keep him safe than to be abusive and demeaning towards him. So now, and I'm not giving a justification to men, but I want you to understand how some of these men were raised. Now he's raised by this woman, and you come in and say, you're a man, you're my husband, you're supposed to be a provider and protector. Protect. Okay, I gotta control where she goes. Protect. I gotta talk harsh to her to make sure she doesn't go to these places that could be there. Protect. What?
The thing is that that requires conversation, right?
Yes, it
Because
does.
Mhm.
because because your way of protecting, right? Your idea of protection could be triggers for me.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
if your behavior is triggering me, right?
Yes.
Um you weren't there when um I felt captive. You weren't there when I felt helpless. You weren't there. And the mere fact that what you're doing right now is taking me back to that hurtful, traumatic experience.
Yes.
Is
Well,
Go ahead.
being the female in the room, I think also, I think also what happens too when we talk about households that don't have a father, and a lot of women have not had their fathers in their lives, which is unfortunate, or their fathers were there but they weren't in the home. Then they don't fully understand that protection mode, and what that looks like, and the dynamics of all of that. And so they had a mom who did it, so it's the woman who did it. The mom said, no, you got to come in when the lights 6 o'clock, when the lights come on, you got to be inside. The mother was the one who laid down all the laws, all the rules. And so then to now have this husband who
Mhm.
is having this mindset that he has to protect, and that this is the way of showing love, and this is what you know his role is in this relationship, and it is his God mission. I like that. I had to write that down, Damon. his God missing. Um, it's difficult, I believe, for a lot of women, and because so many women have been left for such a long time, and I think it's a lot of societal practices, generational curses, that women have been left to serve in this kind of role that's wasn't initially meant for them, and to now then have to understand that they have to relinquish some of these responsibilities to someone else is difficult.
You brought
Yeah.
up a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Because we as a society, that there has been an attack on the black family for so many
Yeah,
decades, right? For centuries, right?
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
yeah.
for centuries, right? Since 1619, right?
Mhm.
It's there's been an attack on the black family, right? And so because particularly the black woman knows that she could be left holding the bag. And
Mm,
as a result, why should I trust you when my mom trusted this man to be my dad and
mm-hmm.
he left? And my grandfather, he was gone, and my and my uncle, he was gone. He didn't marry my aunt and all this other stuff, right? We've all been left, right? Growing up on the west side of Chicago. And the same thing happened in New York where you got the projects, right?
Mhm.
Where you have these factories manufacturing children who are without fathers.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
This is what
So
13 wide, 13 high, right? That's what 196 built 196 apartments,
In Queensbridge, yeah, the largest
right?
housing development in the nation.
Right. Manufacturing fatherless children
yeah,
because the fathers are in order for you to be here, the dad cannot be involved in the house, right?
man.
Cannot be there. And
I'm
so
trying. I'm
no,
trying, champ.
no, I'm ready to turn her over right now. And so because I know that I could be left with the bag, right? You got to come with something, bro. That that verify that I can confirm that you're when I give this to you, that you got it from this point on.
Mm,
And I gotta trust but verify as a woman. I gotta trust but verify. So I got to go through and check because the what I saw on my list, what I've seen in with my mom and those aunts, all them ladies, we ain't got a man who's been trustworthy. The only man that we know is well, even that man, he don't come when you want him, but he's on time.
mm.
But
Yeah. Now who teaching Bible study?
now we teaching Bible study. But my
Now
point
who teaching?
now
Uh-huh.
my point is this, right? I love you guys, man, and is I appreciate the conversation, um, and it's helpful. And
Mm-hmm.
we all have work to do, and so as a part of our podcast, right, we talk about what does it mean to be intimate, and
Mm-hmm.
in this, the definition that we use is that intimacy is defined as a level of commitment, positive, affective, cognitive, and physical closeness that one experience with a partner in a reciprocal relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if man and woman are going to have a profound relationship that is prosperous, right? There has to be reciprocity.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a safe space. There has to be a space where both can exchange, where I can tell you my truth. And if I'm saying it feels controlling, guess what? It feels controlling when you grab me by my neck, right? That feels controlling. Well, I'm just trying to
Mm-hmm.
make sure. I'm just trying to make sure the perfume is good around your neck, right?
Mm-hmm. I, I
No,
so
go ahead, man.
Man, so a lot been said by Kelly, by you, and I want to just tackle a couple of quick things, real quick. So, Kelly didn't know it, but she said one of my trigger words, generational curses, right? And the thing about generational curses or generational patterns, however we want to call it, is um, everyone likes to talk about breaking the curse or the pattern until they're the ones that have to break the curse or the pattern, right?
Right.
Because the only way it changes is at least one person has to say, it stops with me,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
right? So, what stops with me? Now, that moves me to my next point of what stops with me. Adam, there's a teaching that I do called the residue of Adam and the residue of Eve. When transparency and vulnerability, reciprocal vulnerability, was lost in the garden, there is a residue that still abides on all of us to this day. For men, the residue is lack of responsibility. For women, the residue is a lack of accountability. But let me take you deeper. Women are prone to deception, men are just downright disobedient. We will do the wrong thing knowing it's the wrong thing. But a woman, when she does the wrong thing, a lot of the time, believe it was the right thing at the time she was doing it. Because the residue that is left on her is to be deceived. So what's the pattern I gotta break? Woman, how do you stop being deceived by this slick talker who say he's gonna be there, but as soon as the child shows up, he leaves? Make him put skin in the game. What skin? Marriage. I know that's old fashioned. I didn't wait until I was married to start having sex. I wish I would have, because I learned something very valuable after marriage of why I should have waited. But marriage, if you can't commit to me in a meaningful way, why would I ever think you're going to commit to this child in a meaningful way?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now I'm just being deceived. I want to believe the lie because it sounds good when you're telling it. Because words are easy to say. But if more men and women became fruit inspectors, I hear
Mm.
you telling me you're an apple, but that skin on the outside of you look mighty thick and orange. Last time I checked, that's what an orange looked like. Matter of fact, when I squeeze you, when we go through trials, I smell that citrusy flavor.
S- so
You
let me
keep
ask
telling me
you,
you're an apple, but
right,
you smell like an orange.
right. So how many men can bear under that scrutiny, right? That type of rigorous inspection, right? Who, what men do you? I'm saying if I'm trying to, if I'm have this calling on my life, right? And I know God has called me to be a husband and do all this other stuff, and now here comes the fruit inspector. What man is going to be who's going to watch this yield to the fruit inspector to be able
Listen,
to show himself worthy of this bride, right? Or his wife, right? Because the Bible says he who finds the wife. He didn't say who finds the bride, right? He who finds a wife finds a good thing, right?
oh man, I have a whole teaching on that, but I ain't gonna do it. In because women love to say, "I'm his good thing." How do you know? Who told you you're a good thing? That's a whole nother conversation. I ain't gonna go there. But here's the thing, right? Over in Proverbs 31, everybody gets it confused. They make it all about the woman. Proverbs 31 is not about the woman. It's not about the man. It's about what a properly functioning marriage looks like. The heart of her, it goes back to your definition of intimacy. The heart of her husband doeth safely trust in her because he knows that she would do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Uh-oh.
Right.
Now, because of that, she puts him in a position to sit in a position of authority as an elder at the gate. While he's there at the gate, she making money sacks, and they say, "Hey, you know somebody got a money sack? Yeah, go down 3 blocks, take a right. It's the third house on the left. That's where his
Mm-hmm.
wife lived." Right? It's that symbiotic, reciprocal relationship. Now,
Right.
how does he bear up under the fruit inspection? This listen, no man wants to bear up under the fruit inspection, including Jesus Christ himself. Oh, what are you talking about? He was sent to sacrifice for his bride. But he found himself when the rubber was ready to meet the road, he found himself in the Garden of Gethsemane saying, "If it's your will, let this cup pass from me." Every man will marry his cross. And every man will have his garden moment where he says, "I want out, but I'm gonna do what you say." When they were like, "Oh, but I wanna you can't die," and he's like, "Listen, I gotta go away and build a place for you. I gotta go." What? Listen, when that woman is looking at him, and this is the fruit inspection process. Hold on, have you built a place for me?
Right.
Hold on. Are you willing to tell me no? Look at I want to just take the spirituality out of it. Look at the practical functions of Jesus as a husband. His wife said, "You ain't going on that cross. You ain't gonna do it." He said, "Hold on, I got a God mission." Called his wife the devil. Get thee behind me, say. What? Hold on. You talk like that to your wife? Yeah, if she's standing between me and the God mission.
Mm.
Because I'm doing that from a place of love, not from maliciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. This is what's so powerful about when a husband submits to the God mission, champ. This is what's so powerful, Kelly, is because when he submitted to the God mission, his wife, and I ain't talking about the physical lady that showed up, his wife was the first one that
Oh no.
Huh?
I can't hear you, Damon.
did I get okay. What's her last thing you heard me
You
say?
said
I'm sorry.
when you said when you stopped when um you were saying it how powerful it is when a husband submits to a God
Oh,
mission.
when he submits to the God mission, look how powerful it was. When he submitted to the God mission, his wife was the first to celebrate him. Look at what God has done in my husband. I ain't talking about the literal woman, the first one at the tomb, but his wife, his greater bride, his greater collective bride said, "My husband submitted to God, and look where we are at now."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it when he was doing it, but now I see it. But he had to stay submitted to the fruit inspection process. And I'm not saying it's easy because I don't want any man to hear that and
Mm-mm.
say it's easy. Jesus sweated blood, but he had his guard moment. He wanted out. He said, "Let the cup pass from me." This woman, he in his own way, he said, "This woman you gave me," but the difference between him saying it and Adam saying it is he said, "But nevertheless, not
That
my will,
will.
but yours."
Mm.
So I'm saying that when it comes down to the fruit inspection, man, when it comes down to the fruit inspection, it is the responsibility of the woman to say she has the fruit.
Right.
You cannot pick the fruit unless you have properly tended to the orchard, unless you have built a place for this fruit to be bountiful and multiply. How many kids you want us to have? Oh, I like 5 kids. Oh, okay. I'm willing to bear the 5 kids, but where are our finances to take care of the 5 kids?
Right.
Right? And this is a fundamental, and I'm not big on like women talking to men just about money, 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 because that's nonsense. It's bigger than money. But I want you to think about this. I Man, one day a friend of mine got real crazy, and he sent because my wife and I own a coaching, marriage and relationship coaching business as well, and he sent a polygamous couple to us.
Oh.
Oh Lord.
Mm.
And it wasn't both wives. There's just the one wife. She was the first wife, but they were bringing on a second wife, and there was some tension. And so we was talking with the husband first, and I said, God, I really don't want to coach them on this or whatever. But I said, but then God gave me wisdom. I said, man, hey, I said, you want two wives? I say, okay. You're using the Bible to justify it. Okay, let's go with that. Let's go with that. Because I don't think you read your Bible well. I said, let me just say it like this. Say your first wife, this lady sitting right here that you're having the issue with, and she's starting to have second thoughts about the second wife, and she's brought up her thing. But let's just say this. Let's say every year you take her on a 2 week vacation to Dubai every year before y'all ever brought the second wife. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I said, let's say that she drives a top of the line Mercedes, right? He like, yeah, okay. We agreeing with that. Okay. I said, and let's just say that y'all have a 5,000 square foot home. Y'all have a nice master bedroom, and she has a nice,
Mm-hmm.
huge room for her makeup and whatever. It's just her craft room, right? Like, yeah. I said, okay. So let's just say all those things, and y'all go on date night to a nice high end steakhouse every
Mm-hmm.
week, right? I said, okay.
Right.
And let's say you have the money for that. I said, now let's bring in the second wife. I said, and you make no more money. What changes would you have to make? Would you potentially have to reduce the trip to Dubai? He said, well, being that I have two wives, I would take one week and one the other, but they would each get there a long time. I said, oh, okay. I said, now let's keep going. I said, can your wife still keep the Mercedes or whatever? And he's like, well, she could. And I said, but maybe they could share. Oh, okay. What about her craft room? Well, we wouldn't have enough room for both of them to have a craft room, and she'll have plenty enough room. I said, I said, so now let's go back to the Bible. You cannot diminish the first wife. So
Right.
I don't care how
Mhm.
bad you want a second wife. You can't afford a second wife because you've already told me that in order to have a second wife, you've got to diminish the first. So if you want to use scripture, Levitical law says you cannot diminish the first wife for the second.
But,
And
the thing is that you're absolutely right. The problem that most men have is the reciprocity in that conversation, right?
yes,
It's okay to have two women, right? Well, let's bring in another dude, right? Can we have two men? And then he's like,
well, he's using scripture. So
no,
there's
but
no
what I'm
precedent
saying,
in scripture about having two men, but I get what you're saying. Go
but,
ahead.
but,
Go
but,
ahead.
but what I'm saying is the difference between being male and female is one chromosome, which is the Y chromosome, right? So your
Mm-hmm.
reproductive organs are on the outside if you have the Y. If you have an X chromosome, your reproductive organs are on the inside, right? My point of it is that men are not as cooperative when the threesome goes when it's two men.
Oh, bruh, listen. Let me tell you a story, right? Let me tell you a
They're
story.
not as supportive. They're not all in when we're bringing in another dude.
I,
Right, and
I
and
know.
and and here's the funny thing. No, I gotta say this because this is gonna be funny on right. And the dude want to touch you too. Oh,
I knew where you was
Oh,
going. I knew I was trying to
boy.
stop you, but I knew where you was going, right? Because
oh my
here's the
god.
thing, man. I know a couple that the husband talked his wife into having an open marriage. And at first she was like, okay, we could do that, but she wasn't really looking for nobody for her, right? So he was
Right.
having a good old time. She knew about the other women, whatever. But after about a couple of years, she decided she wanted to get her and she met a guy. And she's like, well, honey, I want to introduce you to him because this gonna be my guy. But he's like, well, oh, what you talking about? I said we're gonna have an open marriage. Yeah, yeah. But the way you explained it in the beginning, she's like, is that we both could. I just chose not to. Well, what changed? Why you want to? Well, I could ask you the same thing. What changed has made you want to open? You know,
Right.
and so to your point, right? Men are very territorial when it comes to that and all of those things. But I listened to a Muslim sister one day explain the best way I've ever heard it about why she was okay with her husband having a second second wife. And let me explain. I'm not supporting this, but I am a person who can step out of the moment and see the full context. She said, one, he included me in the process of recruiting her, and she and I had great chemistry, and it produced a better outcome for our family. And she went on some other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most men ain't gonna do that. It's like, here the chick I want, and you accept that. And they asked her husband, well, what if she wouldn't have agreed? He said, well, I would have had to keep looking until I found one that she agreed with.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah, amen,
And
amen.
that's rare.
Amen.
And
Yeah,
that's rare.
it's rare, and the thing is, like, again, if it was good for the goose, has to be good for the gander, right?
Mm,
And if you want again reciprocity, right? In an intimate relationship,
mm-hmm.
reciprocity is non-negotiable, right? So if you want it this way, then it has to come back this way for you, right? Otherwise,
Mm.
don't submit it.
I, you have to understand the risk. I agree with you that you have to understand the risk. And the reason I hesitate and when I'm listening to what you're saying is I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna say this out loud.
No, say it.
I'm gonna say it. Men and women are not equal, and that is not a bad thing. And this is what I mean by that. For
Well,
because if someone's feminist and they're listening to this, they're gonna say, "Oh, you're saying we're less than." No, we are different,
Different. Mm-hmm.
and that diversity should be celebrated. Because if we were the same, listen, I don't want to marry Damon, and I ain't talking about marrying a man. I don't want to marry somebody that has the same hard edge that I have. We ain't gonna make it. We ain't gonna make it. I need someone who balances me out. My wife, what the world doesn't know about me is my wife makes sure y'all don't get cut. And
right,
sometimes I still slide out the sheath because she balances me.
right,
She balances me.
and Randy's like, I can do it too, dog.
Nah. My wife balances me. But here's the thing, and Champ, we talked about this a little bit. When I um Kelly, are you married?
I used to be. I'm single now.
Okay, you single, you dating?
Not really.
Uh, Kelly, were you on Hardly Initiated? Because I feel like you was on Hardly Initiated with that answer. I heard a Kelly last night gave similar answer. Like,
No.
no, I'm messing with you. I'm messing with
It's
you.
fine.
And I ask you that because so I did an unofficial experiment, Champ. I think I shared this with you, and I was surprised by the results because I was expecting the opposite. So I asked some men and some women I knew, probably about 10 each,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, why do you value your spouse? Right? In another way, how does your spouse make you better? When I asked women, all of the women immediately went to the tangible things that their
Mhm.
spouse did. Right? I say, okay, take the tangible things off because any person with money could do everything you just said. Give me the intangibles. Only one woman was able to give me any intangible things about how their spouse made them better or why they valued them. When I went to the men, no man mentioned anything tangible. They didn't talk about how she was a great mom, great wife, whatever. They said, my wife makes me better because I value my wife because I am my best version with her because my wife slows me down to make me think. My wife, and they went on this long list, and I was expecting
Mm.
the exact opposite.
Mhm.
So then I was following up with one of the young ladies, and we were talking about some challenges she's having in her marriage. I said, do you want to transform your husband? She's like, yeah, I do. We just keep bumping heads and blah blah blah. I said, do you really want to go and transform him? I said, you want to transform your marriage? She said, yeah. I said, I want you to go home because you just told me. And she was the only one who had given me a viable answer. I said, I want you to go home and tell him everything you just told me. And she said, I can't do that. I said, what? She said, I can't do that. I said, why? I don't want him to know that I need him that much.
Wow.
Mm.
I said, what? I said, but you want a different marriage. You want it. She said, yeah. I said, go home and tell him everything you just told me. And so I checked in with her a week. She said, I ain't built up the nerve for it, Damon. I said, this weekend you go home and you tell your husband. And she went home and she told him. And she said before she could get it all out, he was crying,
Mm-hmm.
crying
Yes.
because he did not know. He felt like she did not need him beyond the tangible. He did not know that she needed him emotionally.
Right.
Mm.
And that's something that I realized as my marriage was ending, right? That there was more to me than just being a provider and protector.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That I was responsible for helping my children, helping everybody in my household feel a sense of loving and belonging. That I
Mm-hmm.
was responsible for helping them to feel good about our relationship, right? That's Maslow's hierarchy of need, the esteem need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that we can go off and have create different activities, right? Have lolly time. Well, my daughters and I, we would go in and go to 7-Eleven. We get a Slurpee and we get lollipops, right? It was lolly time, right? And I was responsible for that, but that was the part where I'm saying is that because we're indoctrinated that men are providers and protectors, we get locked in that those are only our two jobs, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
how it was easy for those women to say that he don't complete me because I got my own money
Mm-hmm.
and I got ADT, so I'm okay with my security and my finances.
Mm-hmm. And man, you said another one of the trigger words. I hate that phrase. My wife does not complete me. I do not
But
complete her.
in a covenant, right? In a covenant, right? Marriage is a covenant. In a covenant, you
It
you
is.
cover each other weaknesses.
You do. And so my wife covers me, but she does not complete me.
Right. Okay. Well,
See,
amen.
so
Go.
so and when I say that, man, just because I know you say
Okay. No.
we
No.
look
Oh,
for the
no. No.
places to
No. No.
agree.
You're right. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. And the thing is that you're in a marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Are you in a marriage by yourself?
Nope.
Well,
No.
you're in a marriage with your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your wife, in order for you to have a marriage complete, you have to have, watch this, your wife. So
But
therefore, your wife completes the marriage.
she can complete the marriage, but she does not complete me. The one of the
Amen.
things I hate to hear preachers preach from the pulpit, and I've heard it a lot of times. God took Eve out of Adam, and this is that. Listen, God made a whole man and a whole woman, and the reason marriages keep suffering is because parts of people keep trying to show up instead of whole people.
I
You
love
understand?
that part.
If whole people showed up in marriage,
Right.
then marriages would be good because champ, you just said something very important. You said something very powerful. My wife, so our marriage, listen, every marriage has a garden to tend to.
Right.
And that garden can only be tended to when two whole people show up to do their part of the mission so that the mission can be completed, right?
Right.
Right. Well, first of all,
So
second thing,
so
you got to close the gate. You got to close the gate of the garden.
you got, man, listen, if people understood that every marriage, so the number one reason marriages fail, the number one reason, first I'm gonna ask a question, then I'm gonna tell you the number one reason marriages fail, in your opinion, right? And it's your opinion, you own it. Why do you think is the number one reasons marriages fail?
Kelly, I mean legacy. You want to get that,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna add to it. Go ahead.
Say it again. What's the number one reason marriages fail?
Uh-huh. If you had to give the number one reason that
Hmm.
marriages fail, why do you think the
Lack of
number one reason?
communication.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Right.
On top of finances and
So
incompatibility, sex. Those are three things there.
so
Okay.
I think that the reason why marriages fail is because we are not there is not a safe space where each individual can express their truths. And the reason why there isn't a safe space, because of what Kelly was saying, is that because out prior to the safe space being established, we have a breakdown in communication on finances or truths or whatever. We don't have a non-judgmental environment in the relationship, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
because that is absent, you only it's only a matter of time before each person hit their number in which they feel invalidated or unimportant. You know, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I know
Mm-hmm.
mine was at 9:36. I
Mm-hmm.
know mine I know I because it was at 8:40, was it 240, 480. I know I because 22 years, 2 times a month times four by times 20 years is 480 times. And I know I hit like 816, right? Because I know I did like three, four
Mm-hmm.
times a month, right? And she did like three, 4 times a month. And so I exceeded my number. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Okay. Let me tell you number one reason marriages. And everything you guys said, I see as symptoms. Let me tell you the root cause,
go ahead. Come
right?
on with the root cause.
Root cause. And I'm going to say it in a way that I've never said it before. Too many couples pursue marriage relationship goals without pursuing relationship purpose. Watch this. There's a formula to marriage, and this formula has never failed. Never failed.
Okay. Come on, give me
In
the
the
formula.
Here's the formula. In the beginning, God created all the heavens, the earth, everything, right? After he created everything, he looked around and he said, you know what? I ain't got nobody to take care of this. Let me
Mm-hmm.
make a man, right? Then he said, that man gonna need some help. Let me make a woman. Now I'm gonna bring the two of them together and I'm gonna fuse them together and they're gonna become one flesh. And their purpose is to tend to this garden, reproduce my image, name stuff, and make sure that I continue to show up in the earth through their actions. Right? He gave them a purpose. When God turned the earth over, when he went to closing, they went to the title company and they went to closing. He did not turn marriage over to a man. He did not turn marriage over to a woman. He turned marriage over to he turned the earth over. He did not turn the earth over to a man or the earth over to a woman. He turned the earth over to a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Too many couples get together and they have goals of retiring. They have goals of how many kids. They have goals of vacations. They have goals of the size of the house and the types of cars, but they don't have anything higher than themselves to serve. And marriage was always created to serve something greater than itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have some a mission for that marriage to be marching towards eventually, because of the very human nature, and going back to what you talk about with regard to Maslow, eventually you're going to flame out, because there's going to always be a snake in the garden singing Mary J. Blige, I can love you better than he can. There's always then she can. There's always gonna be somebody singing Hey Lover, like by LL Cool J. Hey Lover. Yeah, he must think it's safe for you to travel that. There's always, but when you are on purpose, when you have a purpose for your marriage that is greater than the both of you, when you realize when we do this, it is going to impact generations. When we do this, it is going to impact whole communities. There are people looking at marriages, and I already know if my wife and I's marriage fail, I am pretty clear on how many, depending on why it fails and how it fails, I'm already clear on the number of marriages that would be negatively impacted,
Right,
families that would
right.
give up,
Absolutely, absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So you have to have a purpose that is bigger than yourself because we are humans. There are going to be days that I don't love her. There's days I don't even like her. But when I look at that woman, I say, "Girl, my purpose is tied to." I I am this how certain I am
So,
about my marriage.
so,
I am 90. If
so,
I had a
hold on, so
hold on,
hold on.
just one last hold
Go
on,
ahead.
Hold on,
one last thing.
Tim. Let him end that.
Yeah. So just one thing. If I had I don't know how to do all the math. If I had a 0.01% belief that my marriage, my purpose, life purpose, was not tied to my wife, that completion, not completing me, but completing the mission, was not tied to my wife, I would be out of here.
Mm.
I am 100% certain that my life purpose is tied up with that woman and that God wants me to love her and that God wants me to be with her and that we are supposed to make this work with him in the middle. If I had just 0.01% belief that it wasn't, see ya. I'm a black man with no prison record that makes decent money. Holla. I'm a good father with a great community reputation. Holla. I'm a rare commodity. And I'm not saying that in an arrogant way, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. I holla. But no, I love that woman. I would lay down my life for her today. And
Right.
that's because of how much I believe in the purpose that we have together. Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, Champ.
No, I know.
I'm sorry, man. I just wanted to finish that.
I'm
Finish
gonna
that
do this
point.
here for you real quick. I'm gonna. I hats off to you, man. I hats off to you. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the authenticity, and your commitment to loving your wife, right?
Yeah.
And your commitment to staying focused because oftentimes we lose focus of the big
Mm-hmm.
prize, and that husbands love your wife as Christ have loved the church.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And gave himself up
Period.
for it, right?
Yep. Full
And
stop.
like the Bible says, how can you say you love me who you have not seen?
Mm-hmm.
And you you are not being loving to this person who you can see,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Right.
what better honor it is for a man to lay down his life for his friend, right? If he can
Yep.
lay down his life for his friend, then he definitely can lay down his life for his wife, right?
Yep.
Mm.
No greater love than this is a
Yep.
man lays down his life for his friend.
Yep.
And here we are looking at this thing. Why to tell me why do you have this challenge with laying down your life like he went back in the beginning? The
Mm-hmm.
sacrificial process, right, bro? You got to
Yeah.
sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and so my love language is words of affirmation. Say anything to me. No, that's not what God said, right? God said,
Yeah.
lay down your life.
Lay down your life.
And
And
that's the
that's
process. But the thing is that
yeah.
when we talk about submission, right? Submission, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Submission, right? And that's where the process is, right? Her submission is not submitting to you, is that she's coming under the mission that God has called upon both of you all.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
You see why I say that that's the key? Because you just brought it full circle, right? Why is it hard for a woman? And I hear that, man. I hear preachers say it all the time. I find that a woman don't have a problem submitting to a man that's submitted to God, but God ain't giving that caveat. He says
R-
submit. But when
right,
you don't know the mission,
right.
when
But the
you don't
thing
know
is,
the purpose,
right,
Yeah,
right,
that's what I
right,
was saying earlier. You have to,
yeah,
a man and a woman are to come together and create a mission. They're submitting to
yeah,
the mission of their entire family. And then when kids come along, the kids should be involved in the process as well, because they're
yes,
going to be seeing the difference. They're going to, and so that in turn too, as they get older and they go into the courting or dating process, that they too find a mate or come into that relationship with the same kind of person, because they lived it. It's
right,
lived
mm-hmm,
experience.
right,
It's not going to be something so foreign to them. And it's how we should, even as a single person, that's how we should live our life. Like, I don't just get up, go to sleep, get up in the morning, go to work, have the day, blah blah blah, maybe socialize, go back to bed, and wash, rinse, and repeat, and just keep doing it over
right,
and over again. There's things that I have to constantly, I have to understand, what is the mission of my life? What is my purpose? How am I going to do things different? Am I at 56 today gonna look different in 4 years when I'm 60? How different is my life going to be? Who has been positively impacted by the action steps that I have taken through these years, to be different, to be better, to be godly, to walk according to my purpose, to understand God's plan for my life, and so on and so forth. And in the
mm-hmm,
hopes, come across somebody who, so I'm not no longer a single,
right,
right, right,
right.
you
So,
right.
know.
so
I
I
love what
know,
you're saying. Yeah,
yeah, I love what you said too. I say for me, right, and this is when I've after being divorced and being single and stuff. Women like I submit. Like, listen, you're not gonna submit. You only submit to what you believe is right because I come to you, and if I'm not going in the way in which you believe I should be going, you ain't submitting.
mm-hmm,
So don't even tell me I'm a woman to submit. Well, you know what? Stop lying. Because
mm-hmm.
you talk back to your boss at work.
Yeah. And this is what's so powerful and important,
Go
man.
ahead, come
And,
on.
and you're right, and you right about like the level of submission and those type of things is in Kelly. Yeah, I love what you just saying is like bringing home that mission, bringing home the fact that and you said something that a lot of women don't say and they don't even believe. The marriage serves the children. No, the children thrive off of a thriving marriage, but so many people
Oh
have
yeah.
children and then they flip the script and like, oh, the marriage is here for the children. No, 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 no. The marriage is first. If the marriage is healthy, the children will be healthy. But if you put those
Exactly.
children first, your marriage is not going to be healthy, and in the long term, your children are not going to be healthy. And
Mhm.
so, what I look at, I had a friend. She said something so powerful, and it's like, man, if everybody took this mind, and what I say, because I want to caveat it with this, because I've been talking to people, especially single people or divorcees. I've coached probably 3 or 4 divorcees in the last few years, and I'm like, I've never been divorced. I can't coach you. They said, no, you can't coach me on being divorced, but you can coach me on being a better husband because you have been that. You can't coach me on being a divorce, but you can coach me on being a better person so I can be a better wife on the next go round because
Right.
you understand it, right? So one of the things that I look at is I say, I talked a friend of mine, she said something so powerful. Her and her husband were going through something and she was angry with her husband, and she said she looked at her husband and said, I can't believe, now this was harsh, but she said, I can't believe I wasted my one marriage on this. I said, one marriage.
Oh, oh, hey,
One
hey,
marriage.
listen.
The
Wow.
mindset. Now we talked about it and she explained it a little more. I say, you can't say that to your husband. That she's like, but I look at it this way. Unless he passes away, I only get one of these.
Mm,
I said, how many more people? Either there would be fewer marriages or more marriages would push through right? Because I don't look at people who didn't make it and look at them like, how could you dare not make? Because I've talked to some people and they're like, man, you talk so matter of fact about your belief. You make me feel bad that I got a voice. No, no, no. What I understand is this: had you been taught differently about marriage, you either would have potentially not married that person or you would have learned how to fight different for your marriage. So it's not even on you. You didn't
Not
know.
even you didn't know. Hey, so listen up, ladies and gentlemen. We and unless we continue to have one show forever, because we can go on forever. we coming up on 2 hours, right? So listen up. So final thoughts. I'm telling you, and then we gonna close this thing out at the 2 hour mark.
All
Because
right.
again, we've been bringing it, man. And Damon, we thank you so much. Legacy, thank you for being here.
Thank
I want to
you.
give both of you all final thoughts, right? On just what y'all think, right? How y'all think we should move forward and
Yeah.
close it out.
Ladies first.
Um, well, I think next we should delve into. Oh, I love the conversation on submission because I know that's going to be whoo steamy, hot topic, sizzling. And let me tell you, it took me a long time to understand the process, and understand that word. Just that word, would make the hair on the back of your neck raise. But now it's a place of comfort, because I understand so much better. And I think we need to really have this conversation for both men and women so that they can understand what the submission really mean. Mission is the key part of that word. Mission. We need to break that whole word down. I think that's where we need, that should be something we talk about. And then I would really like to talk about the dating process for the older group of individuals. I'm in the 50s, so we could start off in the 50s realm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Damon. Talk to
Absolutely.
me. Hold on, Damon.
I
Hold on. I gotta give us some claps. You know what I'm
Thank you,
saying?
thank you, thank you.
absolutely. Absolutely. Um I think for my parting thought, I want to say this. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. But take the time to make sure you're prepared for the mission that Christ wants you to love her through. Take your time to do the healing work, whether it's the father wounds, mother wounds, abandonment, rejection, so that you don't tax her for where other people hurt you.
Mm,
Take your time to be whole so she doesn't have to complete you. Take your time to understand the garden that you were sent to tend to, so that you will choose the right person to help you tend to it. That's my thought.
Thank you so much. We're gonna give you some for listening. Man, I'm thankful, man. You all have taken this intimate discoveries to a whole nother level. And I am thankful for you all. And as we go out, right? The canvas here, baby. Oh my gosh. You all have really transformed our relationship, transformed the conversation. And I just want to say thank you all. Without the conversation being real, without the conversation being authentic, we lack knowledge, right? The Bible says that we perish because of lack of knowledge, and we brought knowledge today, right? Here we go.
Let's go. They said I wouldn't make it, but I'm
He
here.
just said I want to be here, baby.
And I'm here to stay.
We're gonna stay. Camp is here, baby. And we'll be back on Monday, 8 o'clock. You hear that, baby? Man, I love y'all. Thank you all so much. Camp out. Camp out. See y'all on Monday, 8 o'clock.
They said I wouldn't make it, but I'm here
Talk to y'all later. Love y'all. We're out.